My sugar daddy asks me for weird favors. I never thought I'd find myself in such a mess, but being a broke college student does strange things to your judgment. When I first saw Jack's profile, it seemed too good to be true. $700 a week just for doing favors. No strings attached and definitely no sex. I swiped right, half out of curiosity, half out of desperation. To my surprise, we matched instantly. His first message popped up right away.
Hey there, sweetheart.
I cringed at the word sweetheart, but I forced myself to reply. $700 was $700 after all. His profile said he was 45, though he looked like he was in his early 30s. Jack claimed to run his own business, though he never mentioned exactly what it was. We messaged back and forth for a while until he casually asked for my Venmo to send me my first payment. I felt a rush of excitement when the notification came through. $700. It was real, but I couldn't shake a sense of unease, so I asked him the obvious question. What exactly do you need me to do in return? His reply was almost instant, with a smiley emoji.
Just a few favors, nothing crazy.
That smiley face didn't sit right with me, but curiosity and the allure of easy money got the better of me. The first task seemed innocent enough. Pick up a package and drop it off at his house. He sent the address to the pickup location, adding, "You'll need to use a different app to get the details. You got Kik? Or just send me your number." Kik? Really? What year was this? I gave him my number instead, and he texted me the addresses, one to the pickup spot and one to his house, where I'd leave the package.
I'm not home, but there's a key under the blue flower pot near the door. Lock the door when you go in, and lock it again when you leave. Seriously, don't forget.
It was a strange request, but I shrugged it off. Maybe he was just paranoid. I grabbed my keys and headed out. The pickup location was in a sketchy part of town. The house was falling apart, barely held together by a rusty chain-link fence. A huge guy with tattoos covering his chest and arms stood at the doorway, glaring at me as I approached.
You here for Jack's package?
I nodded, staying rooted to the sidewalk.
Wait here and don't touch anything.
He barked before disappearing inside. A few minutes later, he came out with a damp, stained box the size of a shoebox. "Open your trunk," he ordered. I popped it open, not wanting that dirty box anywhere near my car seats. As I climbed back into the driver's seat, the guy called out,
One more thing, watch out.
His words clung to me the whole drive to Jack's place. I blasted music to drown out my anxiety, but it didn't help. I pulled up to a pristine stone driveway in front of an enormous house. The contrast between this place and the dump I'd just left couldn't have been starker. I found the key under the flower pot and stepped inside, locking the door as Jack had insisted. The house was luxurious. Maroon carpets, polished wooden furniture, and the kind of decor that screamed old money. I dropped the package on the coffee table and was about to leave when I heard a phone ring from somewhere inside the house. My own phone also buzzed in my pocket. "Don't answer any calls unless they're from Marvin," the message read. My skin prickled. Who the hell was Marvin? And who was calling from inside this empty house? I ignored the ringing and bolted out of there, locking the door behind me. Over the next few weeks, Jack's requests grew stranger. I drove cars to random parks and swapped them out for different vehicles. I delivered briefcases to that same sketchy house, meeting guys who looked like they walked straight out of a crime movie. He even had me hang out with Julio, the tattooed guy from the first errand, just to keep him company. The money piled up, $3,000 in total, but with each job, my gut screamed louder that something wasn't right. Then last week, Jack made his weirdest request yet. Spend the night at his house. $1,000 for one night, as long as I followed some simple rules. The list was on the dining room table when I arrived. 1. Lock the door when you come in. 2. Only answer calls from Marvin. 3. Don't turn on any faucets between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. 4. Don't open the door for anyone after 10 p.m., no matter who they say they are. 5. If the closet door at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If it's closed, sleep in any of the bedrooms. 6. The gardener comes at midnight. If he starts knocking on the windows, hide. 7. Turn the TV on and let it play static all night. Do not forget to do this. It felt like a bad joke, like someone was trying to mess with me, but curiosity and the money convinced me to stay. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth, then checked the closet. It was open. I moved my stuff into the library, locked the door, and settled in for a long, tense night. Just after 10, the doorbell rang. I froze.
It's the police! Open up!
My heart raced, but I didn't move. The rule was clear: don't open the door for anyone. A few minutes later, the bell rang again.
Hey, it's Jack. Let me in.
It sounded just like him, but why would he need me to unlock the door? He'd have a key, wouldn't he? My mind spun as the voices outside changed, each one more insistent than the last, each one claiming to be someone different. Finally, it went quiet. I eventually drifted into a restless sleep, waking in the early hours to the sound of movement in the kitchen. I crept out of the library expecting the worst, but when I peeked into the kitchen, there was Jack, casually cooking breakfast. "Morning," he said, smiling like this was the most normal situation in the world. I could barely swallow the eggs he offered. I made small talk, trying to hide my unease, and quickly made my excuse to leave. He walked me to my car, waving as I drove away. Back home, I unpacked my bag and found the rules list tucked inside. That's when it hit me. I'd forgotten one of the rules. Turn the TV on and let it play static all night. Do not forget to do this. My stomach churned as I read the line over and over, dread creeping up my spine. My phone buzzed. A payment notification. The $1,000 had come through. I was staring at my phone, trying to convince myself everything was fine, when another message from Jack arrived.
I'm not in town right now. I should be back next week, so you're free from running any more errands for me until then. Just sent the payment. Go do something fun.
I stared at the message and read it again. And again. And once more, for good measure, I'm not in town right now. I thought back to this morning and how Jack was in his house, how he gave me breakfast. I'm not in town right now. Within minutes, a new text came in, this time from a number that I didn't recognize. Did you forget to do something? The text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was of the outside of my house. It was followed by another text. Watch out. I never wanted to be a stepmom. Not really. But life has a way of taking unexpected turns. 6 months ago, I married Harry, a widower with a 13-year-old daughter, Lily. I thought I could manage. I thought Lily just needed time to adjust. But recently, things took a turn that I can't explain away. It all started with small, spiteful acts. Finding paint on my favorite shoes, my shirts ruined, and random ink spills in the most inconvenient places. Harry always shrugged it off, telling me, she's going through a tough time, give her space. But it was more than that. I could feel her resentment radiating like a cold draft through the house. Then, one evening, while Harry was away on a business trip, I found something on Lily's phone that turned my unease into raw, pounding fear. She had been taking photos of me, dozens of them, all while I was asleep. They were dark, grainy, and mostly blurry. But they were unmistakable, photos of me lying vulnerable in bed, taken from odd angles. Some from under the bed, others from the closet, even the bathroom. My pulse thundered in my ears as I flipped through the images, noting the timestamps: 2 a.m., 3 a.m., night after night. What was she doing? Was she trying to scare me? Plan some twisted prank? My mind raced with every possible explanation, each one more unnerving than the last. I tried calling Harry, but it was late, and his phone was off. Alone in the dark, I decided to confront Lily. "Jen?" A small voice came from behind me. I spun around, nearly dropping the phone. Lily stood at the top of the stairs, half her face hidden in shadow, watching me. "What do you want?" I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want my phone back," she said softly. "Not tonight. We'll talk in the morning." She didn't argue, just turned and walked back to her room like nothing had happened. That night, I locked my bedroom door. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, every creak and whisper in the dark sending shivers down my spine. Was she outside my door? Was she planning to sneak in again? The next morning, I finally got through to Harry. He was quick to dismiss it.
"She's just acting out. Probably planning to embarrass you online. I'll talk to her when I get back."
Reluctantly, I agreed. But I made sure to keep Lily's phone, hoping it would curb her behavior. That night, she was unusually well-behaved. Too well-behaved. She was polite, did her chores, and even smiled at me. It felt wrong, like she was hiding something. But against my better judgment, I gave her the phone back. I wanted to believe things could be normal. Big mistake. At 2:30 a.m., I woke to the faint click of my bedroom door opening. I bolted upright, my heart hammering. Lily stood in the doorway holding a bobby pin, her eyes wide with a look I couldn't read. "What are you doing?" I hissed, adrenaline surging through me. She froze, then turned and ran. I chased her down the hallway, fear and anger mixing into a sickening knot in my chest. "Why are you taking pictures of me? What's wrong with you?" I shouted as I cornered her at the top of the stairs. She didn't answer. Instead, she held out her phone and said,
"Dad didn't believe me. He thought I was lying, but it's real. Look."
I grabbed the phone and she swiped to a photo. It was one of me, taken while I slept, my face barely visible in the darkness. She pointed to the ceiling.
"Look at the ceiling."
I squinted. There was nothing but shadow. What am I supposed to see?
"Turn the brightness up."
With trembling hands, I adjusted the brightness. And then I saw it. Thin, spindly shapes crisscrossed in the shadow above my bed. Limbs, impossibly long and angular, almost spider-like. It was faint, like something was trying to hide just out of sight. But it was there. Lily flipped to the next photo. The shapes had moved, slowly creeping down the walls, stretching toward the bed. My breath caught in my throat as I flipped through the series of photos, each one showing it getting closer, closer to me. The last photo was taken just minutes before I woke up. It showed me sitting up, panic in my eyes, and, right behind me, in the darkness, something was reaching for me, its limbs impossibly long, its fingers mere inches from my head. My hands went numb, and the phone slipped to the floor. Lily's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with fear. Dad didn't believe me. He thought it was my imagination. But I know it's real. I showed my friends, and they see it too. We don't know what it is, but it's real. We're not staying at the house anymore. I packed a bag, grabbed Lily, and drove straight to a friend's place. I haven't been able to get a hold of Harry, but I'm not going back there until I figure this out. What was that thing in the photos? How long has it been in our house? More importantly, how do I get rid of it before it gets to me? It was a typical night at home when the phone rang. I remember the hollow dread that seized my chest the moment I answered. On the other end, a man's voice, a voice too calm, too deliberate, spoke.
"I have your daughter."
My heart just stopped. He offered no demands, no ransom. Instead, he invited me to play a game. Guess where she is, he said almost in a whisper.
If you're right, I'll let you see her, but guess carefully.
My mind raced every scenario and nightmare. I thought of all the places in the house, the attic, the garage, her bedroom, but something darker, something instinctual led me to one answer. The basement, I choked out. There was a pause.
You are correct. Well done.
He replied with a cruel cheerfulness.
Come down now if you want to see her and don't think about calling the police.
I ran. My legs felt like lead as I stumbled down the creaking steps. The darkness growing thicker with each descent. I fumbled for the light switch, my trembling fingers finally hitting the right spot. The single dim bulb flickered on, casting long shadows that seemed to crawl up the walls. And there she was, sitting in the corner, her back to me, her hair spilling over her shoulders. Relief surged through me, but it was fleeting, twisted by a gnawing sense that something was terribly wrong. She didn't move. "Sweetheart?" My voice cracked as I stepped closer. When she didn't answer, I reached out to touch her shoulder, but my fingers barely brushed her hair before she toppled forward. The sight that greeted me was a vision torn straight from the darkest abyss. It wasn't my daughter. It was only her severed head, propped up in a grotesque imitation of life. Her wide, lifeless eyes stared back at me, empty, hollow, accusing. The scream that tore from my throat was feral, primal. But the horror didn't end there. The man's voice crackled through a hidden speaker.
Oh, I forgot to mention, every other choice would have been correct too.
His mocking laughter echoed through the basement, ricocheting off the walls. Panic overtook me as I realized the game wasn't over. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows lengthening, reaching for me. I spun around, searching for the source of his voice, but there was nothing. Just the cold concrete walls and the stench of decay. The speaker crackled again.
Look behind you.
I froze, every instinct screaming not to turn. But I did. And there, emerging from the shadows, was a figure, a twisted reflection of my daughter. Her face was gaunt, her eyes burning with malice, her lips curling into a smile that was all wrong. She moved toward me, each step deliberate, agonizingly slow. Her small, delicate hands reached out, but there was nothing childlike in the way her fingers curled like talons. I backed away, stumbling over debris, my mind unraveling as I tried to reconcile what I was seeing with what I knew was impossible. This couldn't be my daughter. She was gone. She was dead. But this thing wore her face, her voice. "Mommy, why didn't you save me?" Distorted and dripping with venom. The lights flickered, and in that strobe of darkness and light, she was suddenly in front of me, inches away. Her cold breath brushed against my skin as she whispered,
"You chose wrong, Mommy."
The bulb burst, plunging the basement into pitch blackness. I could feel her presence, the air thick with the scent of rot, and the sound of her laughter, innocent, playful, twisted by something deeply malevolent. I ran, crashing into walls, clawing at the darkness, desperate to find the stairs, to escape this nightmare. But the laughter followed me, closer, closer, until I felt icy fingers brushing the back of my neck. And then I fell hard, hitting the floor with a bone-crunching thud. As I lay there, pain radiating through me, I heard the man's voice one last time, his tone a sickening blend of amusement and triumph.
It was never about the basement. It was about making you suffer, and now you get to stay.
The last thing I heard was the scraping of small bare feet approaching, and the whisper of my daughter's voice, no longer pleading, but filled with a dark hunger.
"Let's play again."
Hey, hold on a minute. Before you go to sleep, I want to ask you a question. Are you alone right now? If yes, I want to confirm that you're not lying. First, look at your ceiling. If you don't see anything, then check your closet. Still nothing? Now I want you to look under your bed, but before you do, hit that subscribe button, or you might see something you wish you never had. Just kidding, haha. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you enjoy horror stories. Thanks. Oh, and one more thing. Don't look behind you.